before she vanishes. And as we're starting to come away from the Keogh house, I have a question for everyone. Does anybody here have a relative who haunts this place? Now, do you see this brick building jutting off from the side here? Just a little, kind of almost like a miniature house. Now, this used to be the kitchen. It still is here in the 1790s. And a few decades ago, there was a very large woman who ruled that kitchen with an iron fist. She roamed them out of the kitchen. Probably even hurled a saucepan at them. Now, people here in the 1700s, well, they still take caution while entering into that kitchen. Because if they linger too long, some of these people claim that the pots and pans start moving around by themselves, right before they feel a sharp flick against the ear. Frank has just reminded me to let you know that if it starts raining too hard, you can pull down. He was actually a very mean, old, and nasty man. Nobody liked him, and everyone just tried to avoid him. Now, Mr. Wise gave Alice some pretty odd chores to do. Like, one of them was to wash the old man's hair every evening, comb it, and then pick the lice from it. And then, of course, Mr. Wise tried to take advantage of poor Miss Alice. Now, she didn't like this, nor did she like any of the chores that she had to do. She decided, I'm going to kill old man Wise to set myself free. And she joined up with another servant named Richard White. And they devised a plan. For a few seconds. Now, all at once, Richard takes the old man's handkerchief that was around his neck, pulls it tight, and the man blacks out. But no, that's not what kills him. Alice then takes his head and shoves in the water she was using to wash his hair, drowning him. Now, they thought they were free. They thought they had rid themselves of old man Wise and all of their problems. Well, they thought wrong. A few days later, they were brought here to Wright Square, where the gallows used to stand, to be hanged. Now, right before Alice is hanged, she cries, no, you can't kill me. I'm a child. Now, of course, they didn't want to kill a pregnant woman, so they decided to put her in jail to see if she was telling the truth. Well, she was. 9 months later, she gave birth to a boy, nursed the boy for 2 weeks, then the boy was taken away from her, and she was immediately brought here to Wright Square and hanged. Now, if you choose to walk through Wright Square later in the evening, and you see a woman in a white dress or white gown or something along those lines, roaming through the square as if she's lost or confused or looking for something, don't be worried. Don't be afraid. That's just Alice Riley looking for her child that was taken away from her moments before she was hanged.
Your own perceptions and experiences. Well, this is the oldest house built on Madison Square. It was completed in 1840, but it was built on top of the second bloodiest battle of the American Revolution, the Siege of Savannah. When the workers laid the foundation for this home, they discovered shards of uniforms, weapons, musket balls, and even bodies. Many of those bodies they left and built right over and are still beneath your feet this very instant. The current owner of the home actually used to live down here in the basement for a few months while he was restoring the upper portion of the house. And in the middle of the night, he said he would be awoken to the sounds of bagpipes playing and footsteps marching on the brick. Come to find out, there were over 1,600 casualties right here where Madison Square stands today. Many of those soldiers that died here were buried right underneath this house. So maybe these sounds he was hearing in the middle of the night were the sounds of those long-lost soldiers. I'll leave it up to you to decide. We're going to head on upstairs now. If you would please watch your step when we're up. If you're tall, please watch your head on the subject.
I know.
5 years of marital bliss together, until one day she began to suffer from what was then called the devil's disease, what we now know to be yellow fever. She died very quickly after contracting yellow fever, and Francis then mourned for the appropriate amount of time, and then courted Lucinda's sister, Matilda. And Miss Matilda bore him 8 more children, bringing a total to 11. So suddenly this large mansion doesn't seem so large anymore, does it? Also, at the completion of this home, it was host to some truly famous parties of Savannah. Anyone came to parties in this house, with the likes of Robert E. Lee in attendance many times. These parties were so famous, in fact, they go on to this very day. The only she was more considered a friend of him than she was a slave. Like I said, everything appeared to be perfect, until one fateful day in May of 1860. Miss Matilda went looking for Molly to help her start preparing for a party they were having later that evening. She couldn't find her anywhere in the main house, so she went out to the carriage house, snapped her neck, and died instantly. And the people got some pretty amazing images out here in the courtyard, as well as at the carriage house. Orbs are quite common, and also the face of a woman in the second-story windows. Some nights she even has what looks to be a line coming out from behind her head. A lot of people say that it looks like a rope. Like I said, I highly recommend you take as many pictures as you like.
Grave markers, does it? Thank you. There's not. There's about 612 that you can see. Now there's some pretty obvious reasons why there's not nearly as many grave markers as there should be. Well, the first and most obvious one is, well, this isn't a third of the this is only a third of the size of the original cemetery. Well, where's the rest of it? Well, the cemetery used to extend about another block that way, and actually pretty far north. So yes, you are standing over dead people right now. Now another reason why there's not nearly as many grave markers or tombstones as there should be is because in 1864, when Sherman invaded Savannah, he needed a place for a lot of his men, horses, and his supplies. Now back in the day, the cemetery was surrounded by a brick wall rather than the metal gate you see here today, and he thought this is a great place to do so. He put a lot of his men, horses, and supplies in here, and left them be. Now some of these Union soldiers started to move some of the tombstones so the horses wouldn't trip or fall or get hurt over them. And then after a while, these soldiers started to get bored. So for entertainment, they'd take out their guns or their muskets and they start shooting at some of these tombstones, using them as target practice. Or they took out their knives and bayonets and they started carving their dates or numbers into some of the tombstones. For example, here in the cemetery, there is a tombstone that says the gentleman died at age 11, had a 17-year-old wife, and a 12-year-old son. Now, that's not really what happened. That is just what the Union soldiers found funny or entertaining at the time. Now, before I continue on with Sherman and his men, I want to point out these brick-like structures scattered throughout the whole cemetery. Now, a lot of people call them miniature houses. They're actually known as vaults. Now, each vault is for one specific family. Now, if you're to walk in the cemetery during the day and walk around one of these vaults, you come to a little half-moon